today's show, I want to show you guys more repetition being used, promoting cannibalism, normalizing it. Remember, in a lot of these shows like Sabrina, or the whatever it's called, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the main characters are witches and Satanists, and they're promoted as being the protagonist, being the good guy, right? On this show, they happen to have the witches being they're the victims, and oh, they're so great and so wonderful, and they show all of these satanic traditions that involve cannibalism, worshiping Satan, hailing Satan, right? I remember, of course, witches don't believe in that stuff, right? We're supposed to believe all that nonsense. I'm going to show you some clips now from this show where they talk about a feast that they do. They're just normalizing this stuff, right? And the feast is of, people, a witch being sacrificed so other witches can eat the witch. And the whole episode is just, I was skimming through it about, a lot of these witches who crave eating other people. I've covered this before many times with Santa Clarita Diet. The X-Files had an episode where, they were eating the youth and drinking their blood to stay young and not age. And obviously, we've all heard of Kim Kardashian, the vampire facial and that stuff. So take a look at this ridiculousness, and you can see even by these stupid articles. Look at people, what they write. My favorite part of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is all the cannibalism. Oh, I mean, what kind of a freak says something like that? So get a look at these clips. Absolutely ridiculous. And you'll even hear one of them when they sacrifice themselves hailing Satan or their dark lord. Give me a break.
Feast of Feasts, Sabrina, is one of our company's holiest holidays. It's similar to mortal Thanksgiving, but
the menu is slightly different. The witches would have starved and died that winter had it not been for the sacrifices. Freya, the youngest, strongest witch, she
Frey slit her own throat and offered up her body so that the coven would have sustenance through the cold months into the spring. Wait, are we seriously talking about cannibalism?
It's not like the Donner Party.
The Feast of Feasts is an annual demonstration of our devotion to the Dark Lord.
That is what, because
It is the Dark Lord's will, in any case. The 14 tributes draw lots to see who in the honor of the queen. What do you get as queen?
get to be the main course.
The queen is eaten? And witches participate in this?
Ritual sacrifice is slightly different.
Brethren, sisters, a very unholy night to all. Each year, the Feast of Feasts commemorates the selfless sacrifice that saved our coven. Cannot fulfill her duty as Queen of the Feast.
Blasphemy! We are ravenous. We must feast.
Moreover, the Dark Lord has revealed to me.
Freya lives! Praise Satan!
So this is the kind of stuff that they're normalizing. Now, obviously, the sleeping zombies, they see this stuff and they go, oh, it's just a TV show. They don't see the repetition. They don't see how they're constantly putting this in TV shows now and normalizing it. Even in reality shows, right? I talked about Kim Kardashian, even talking about eating her placenta and stuff like that. They normalize it there. They normalize it with shows like Santa Clarita Diet, using humor and comedy, but by telling everybody that it keeps you young, and it's like anti-aging. There's more and more articles coming out where there's companies popping up that are selling blood. Okay, if you don't understand Planned Parenthood, and you're new to all this stuff, the whole purpose of it are these children are sacrifices, and then these fetuses and stuff are used in a lot of these feasts. And listen, I don't care if people say that we're completely crazy. They're completely naive and stupid because they live inside of the bubble that they created, where they show us all this stuff, they reveal all this stuff. Their books and their teachings are out there for people to read and see for themselves. But all the Satanists always come out and they just go, oh, it's just a TV show, it's sensationalized, right? And they want everybody to keep living in their bubble, right? And inside of that bubble is this fake matrix mirage that we live in. And then when they turn on this little thing called the television, or they go on the internet and watch these shows and stream it, they're revealing their plans. They're revealing this stuff. This is a part of sigil magic and how it works. They reveal their plans. They use repetition. These movies, these TV shows, constantly with the same themes, same type of characters that they normalize, right? And then they turn these characters like Sabrina, who you would think would be a villain, into a hero. And even in this episode, they talk about how these hunters would hunt the witches, and they're actually the villains. So, like I've said a million times, Satanism is about inverting everything, flipping everything upside down, including our minds and our thought process. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, witches were hunted. Witches were, you weren't allowed to be a witch. And it wasn't just because people were saying, well, it's because you're not practicing my religion. No, it's because witches would do stuff like this, human sacrifice. What do you think? All of a sudden, everybody just became upset with witches? Kids would go missing. Okay? Animals would go missing. They would be doing this stuff. There's a reason that they were run out of these towns. Well, worse than that was done. But there was a reason for it. People weren't just going, oh, we need to go after these witches because we got nothing better to do. Right? Obviously, they were up to something and doing something. So, like I said, when they set up this whole matrix, one of the things they did was they were able to keep all of this stuff hidden, which used to be normal. People would look out for these types of things. People would read the Bible. They would know that, that these people existed, right, and practiced sorcery and all this stuff. So then they hid it, and then, as television continued to grow, they would put all this stuff in there and fictionalize it, because then the brain is interpreting this in a different way. They're able to normalize this stuff. They're able to make it look quote unquote cool, make it look appealing, right? And like I said, a lot of times what they're going to do is they're going to roll all this stuff out and tell people that, drinking blood and, the fountain of youth is really children's blood and stuff like that. This goes back to Baal worship in the Bible. You can go back to Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 5. They have built high places to Baal on which to burn their children in the fire as offerings to Baal, something I never commanded or mentioned, nor did it ever enter my mind. Okay, this stuff has been going on for a long time. And when it was found out that this stuff was going on, these people were, taken care of. And people didn't just suddenly stop being Satanists and stop being witches in the early 1900s. They didn't just go, well, let's just abandon all this now and, let's just become atheists and stuff. They created a plan. The plan was to hide who they were and hide what they do, to create an illusion that they weren't real, right? And like the saying goes, the devil's greatest trick was convincing the world that he didn't exist. Well, that's what these people have done, right? Because we live in a world now, people are like, there's no such thing as that. That's because the TV shows make it look like, look how many shows are about cannibalism, the vampire obsession, right? Twilight and all that nonsense. They push it. There's nothing new. True Blood. All these shows promote this stuff and show this stuff and normalize it, and all the characters happen to be the good guys, like I said. So Baal worship and human sacrifice has been going on for a long time. They'll continue to show us this stuff. They're going to continue to slip it in reality shows and talk about, young blood will help cure certain diseases and stuff like that. And people will think like it's just young, like they're, getting the blood of a young child who's going in for blood work or something like that. People will never think, Planned Parenthood and the purpose of it, right? And the sacrifices, which is what Planned Parenthood is. And that's one of the reasons they promote it so much, not because of women's rights. How dumb the people have to be to believe it's because of women's rights. I mean, really? I won't even get into a debate about it, but keep in mind with these shows that they're going to constantly roll them out. And one of the ways to wake up your friends and your family members is to show them the repetition. I have tons of videos on cannibalism showing how they're putting this stuff in all of these shows, normalizing it, as well as, all these shows that have children acting as the adults and adults acting as the children, like Modern Family. That's all done on purpose. It's all psychological. Okay, it's role reversal, it's inversion, which is what Satanism is all about. And that's why we're seeing all of these characters that you would think would be villains in these shows are good guys, right? And people like me and you can see that and say this is ridiculous. But the people out there watching, the sleeping zombies, they don't see it that way. They look up to these characters, these people, these musicians who promote these things over and over and over. So this is Sabrina, not a surprise. I don't watch the show. I came across an article on it a little while ago, so I wrote it down to talk about it and to go look through it. So I skimmed through the episode, but I could see the titles of other episodes that are just filled with all of this stuff and normalizing all of this stuff that I talk about. Satanic worship, the witches talking about Christmas and the true meaning behind it. I mean, this stuff is all out there. It's just a matter of whether people will put their pride down, will take the veil off of their eyes, and they'll start seeing this stuff. It's a matter of pride for people. They don't want to believe it because, one, it's hard to deal with, and two, they're prideful of their lives and the world they live in. Once they find out that this stuff is all fake, it's an illusion, your diploma and all this stuff means nothing. It's a waste and a distraction. They don't want to see that. Once they don't want to believe that they've spent all these years being trapped in it. They don't want to believe that witches and Satanists exist and that they're the controllers and they go through Freemasonry, all these secret societies and lodges, and that's how they have control and network for all branches of our government, all large corporations. They just don't want to believe it. They want to believe that their vote counts, that there's freedom here, and that the people are in charge, not the government and everyone else, and it's a joke. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.